Several countries around the globe are faced with the predicament of how to hold an election during the COVID-19 pandemic without spreading the virus, and at the same time also without compromising the outcome of the election. The danger of holding or not holding elections in times like this is that it tends to undermine the health of democracy either way. We have countries such as Malawi that have conducted credible elections in the midst of the pandemic, and at the same time we also have countries such as Burundi that have held very highly contentious elections in the midst of the pandemic. We need to be alive to the fact that governments have imposed lockdowns to mitigate the spread of the virus, but these have been used to a large extent to crack down on perceived enemies, and as such has actually influenced the outcome and determination of elections in countries such as Tanzania, Burundi, and Cote d'Ivoire to a large extent. I believe that it's possible to have credible elections as long as measures are put in place in the electoral processes that embrace COVID-19 mitigation measures without compromising elections. Countries have to really plan ahead for future elections and for future occurrences beyond the band-aid kind of like solutions that we are seeing today. From your voter registration, from your voter education, from your campaigns, your election logistics, and more importantly also to post-election activities such as retrieval of voting materials and all. So at times we tend to import processes from abroad that do not necessarily sit with the context of our own country. Countries can actually look at either extending the period of voting to say 2 days, or increase the number of polling stations so that at least it avoids overcrowding. You can also put in measures and safeguards that would allow for social distancing during voting. You can also look at early voting, which can also be considered, but this has to be accompanied by strong electoral oversight mechanisms given the potential for malfeasance during elections in Africa. The laws make it very difficult to postpone elections, and in most cases it can be done in the extreme of circumstances such as natural disasters or pandemics of this nature. But this has to be informed by the law. Take also South Africa, for example. They had to go to the courts to seek for postponement of elections, and in my country, Zimbabwe, even though it's not a very good case study, they had to use provisions of the Public Health Act in order to postpone elections. But there are dangers of postponing elections. It sets a very, very dangerous precedent that might undermine electoral democracy and the functionality of representative democracy in the future. It might also be abused for term elongation by those seeking to extend their terms beyond what is provided for in constitutions. The rule of law is under threat in Africa, especially with the advent of COVID-19 in the region. The enforcement of COVID-19 mitigation measures has been used to undermine the rule of law. The struggle for the entrenchment of the rule of law is very real, and we should strive to now start building very strong institutions that help to consolidate but also to deepen and entrench the rule of law in the region. So with stronger institutions, with stronger advocacy around the oversight mechanisms that are in place, I think we can to some extent be able to try to mitigate some of this backsliding that we are witnessing in the region, especially with the advent of COVID-19 and the enforcement of its mitigation measures.